Welcome to the Real Freedom Podcast, where we inspire you to pursue your passion to gain time and financial freedom through opportunities in real estate. I'm your host, Mike Swenson. Let's get some real freedom together. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Real Freedom Podcast, where we talk about building time and financial freedom through opportunities in real estate. And today we're talking about a concept that maybe a lot of you don't know and don't understand, which is cost segregation. And so I'm going to start off with a quote of something that happened 234 years ago, back in 1789. Benjamin Franklin said the famous quote, "Nothing is certain but death and taxes." And our guest today, Jodi Nielsen, would say, and I can help you defer one of those things. And so we're going to talk about cost segregation today. Jodi works for Cost Segregation Services Inc, which is a national engineer-based company performing over 40,000 cost segregation studies. And we'll talk about what it is and how you can use it. But think about this: for every $500,000 that you have in buildings or in assets, the tax savings that people can experience is typically between $40,000 and $80,000. So as we look at our analysis of cash flow, appreciations, returns, and all that, how do we help quantify kind of some of those potential tax savings by doing something like a cost segregation? You're looking at $40,000 to $80,000 potentially on a $500,000 building. So a little bit about Jodi. She has a bachelor's degree in nuclear medicine, absolutely prepared her for her career here today. Also has worked as an administrator of a medical clinic, co-owner of a shipping and packing company, and consulting businesses to help them with their finances and with their cash flow here. So Jodi, we're so excited to have you on the show.
Well, thank you, Mike. I appreciate you giving me the invite, and I love to help people and give them knowledge. You don't know what you don't know. And cost segregation is something that many people do not know about. As you mentioned, we have done over 40,000 studies. We've been in business since 2001. Cost segregation, the concept of it it's not new. It's been around since 1997. So this is something, basically, if you own a building, you're sitting on cash. We just need to get it out for you. So what cost segregation, the words kind of sound like, what is that? It's basically, your building consists of 9 building systems and up to 220 building components. What we do as an engineering-based tax consulting firm is we break out what we can in your building into 5, 7, or 15-year life. And by doing this, we can typically up to 40% of the building we can break out. And by doing this, we accelerate the depreciation. So as you had mentioned, Mike, what can you do with that cash flow? It's all about cash flow. That's what I've done in all my different businesses, is just help people, with cash flow. And cash is king still, whether you decide to invest that money you don't pay in taxes, you decide to pay down part of your building, or you buy new equipment, or you hire more people. We do not, as a company, we do not file taxes, but we do work hand in hand with your CPA, or your tax professional, I should say. Many of they do know about it. I've never met a tax professional that is an engineer. So just for the people listening here, we will work hand in hand with them. We make their lives easier because we give them a broken down, definitive calculation of every single thing in your building, whether it's flooring, plumbing, electrical, window shades, LED lighting, masonry work, anything that, parking lots, outdoor signage, sidewalks. So there's a lot of different types of buildings too. And so what I get asked a lot, Mike, is if, I have an Airbnb, or I have a warehouse, or I have a retail strip, I have a condo. As long as you file in the United States and it's not your permanent residence, we can help you. So what we want to look at is kind of either a depreciation schedule if you've owned your building more than a year. You would have already had the building and the land broken out. And then any improvements you've done over the year, because sometimes I do get, oh, it has to be a new build or a brand new building I bought. Not true. We look at everything. If you have a 20-year-old building, there's probably not going to be any depreciation left in it that I can help you with. But what have you done to that building in those 20 years? Most people, maybe put 50,000 in one year, 100,000 another year, another 80,000. So when we look at those schedules, we can be like, oh, okay, well, there's still things that we can help you with. So it's always beneficial to just kind of have a chat and see where things are at. Now, if you just built or bought a building, that's going to not have a depreciation schedule. So at that point, what we would need is your closing settlement statement. And two important things that I always ask. Number one, was there a 1031 exchange involved? That it's not a bad thing. It's a lot of clients do. It's just we do have to take into consideration what we need to take out for that 1031 monies that was moved over. And just on a side note with 1031 exchanges, if we cost save one building and then you 1031 into another building, typically it's going to be a bigger, more higher value building, you're going to want to keep cost saving it, because the whole concept of 1031 is defer, paying the tax man. So you'd want to continue to do cost segregation. There'd be no reason not to. The other thing was going to mention, if you have a building and you are going to be doing major improvements on it, we would want to know those as well, because we would add that to the cost basis. Now, there's some strategies on maybe when you would do some major improvements, and that comes into kind of another fold of the onion, if you will. There's partial asset disposition. So basically, there's things that you tear out of the building, throw in the dumpster. I would call it dollars in the dumpster. So there's a value to what you tear out too, and I can help you get that if you qualify. So when you look at buying a building too, I work with CPAs, building owners, investors, bankers. It's always beneficial because cost segregation is going to give everyone definitive numbers on what your building's worth. And as a banker, a lot of them realize the value if you tell them you're having a cost seg study, because they want to make the loan to you to buy your building. However, they want to get paid back, right? So if they know you've done a cost seg study and you've got cash flow, they know they're going to get paid at least first year, second year, etc. Now, what people when you look at cost segregation, I have been getting a lot of questions recently about what's this bonus depreciation. So bonus depreciation kind of step back to before the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2017. Bonus, at that time, you had to have built something new, and it had started at 100%, and by 2017, it was down to 50%. Meaning what that means is anything we find that's under a 20-year life, you can accelerate and you can take full advantage of that money the same tax year. Now, what happened in 2017, September 28th, they said if you bought a building or built a building, anybody can get 100% bonus. They are now trying to play it out. So by 2026, they're saying that there will be no bonus. Right now, we're at 80% bonus in tax year 2023. You don't ever lose any benefits, so I don't want anyone to get worried about, oh, I didn't buy a building in 2022, so I'm not getting 100% bonus. It just means that you can't use all of the money the very first year. It would be spread out over the next 5 years, but you never lose benefit.
So just to talk through some of these things, you and I had talked about this previously. The hard thing here for people to understand is to help quantify the benefit of what a potential cost segregation study can do, because we have deal calculators. We can calculate, here's my projected cash flow, here's my projected, appreciation, and here's my projected returns. And sometimes, we kind of get lost in this middle ground of how do we project what our tax savings might be, but understanding this is very significant, right? And so if you're buying a building of a decent size, there's a big savings here, a big potential cash flow savings because of taking advantage of this cost segregation study. And so I think a lot of times people feel like, oh, I just don't know enough about that, or I don't want to take the steps to look into this further because it's taxes and what the heck is this, and I don't understand it, so I'm just not going to do it. And really understanding there's a powerful tool here to help you in your investment journey, and like you said, unlock a lot of potential cash that you can then use either to pay down the mortgage, go find another building. And so figuring this out or spending some time studying cost segregation can have an incredible value for an investor.
Oh, absolutely. And I try to make it as easy as possible for people. So we will do like a free analysis if somebody would be interested. And we'll tell you, what we believe we're going to get out of your building. And we hit our numbers 98% of the time. We're above. We'd rather over deliver. So if I say I'm getting you, 50,000 of tax benefit, I might come in at 60,000. You don't ever pay me anything more. So within 48 hours, I can have some numbers back to you and let you know, what the cost of the study will be, which we're an expense to you, so you get to write us off, and then what your tax benefit is going to be. And this is huge. Like you mentioned, I mean, you have investors here and, a couple that you and I both know that we just were kind of discussing. I mean, it's been super fun to watch them. They have, bought, and then they've taken that cash flow that they had and they've invested again, and they just keep cost saving these buildings and keep building their portfolio. So there's really, I can tell you, as far as cost segregation, what would I want to know? Like, what's the negative? Why would somebody want to do it? Because if you don't pay taxes, like you're a nonprofit or you just don't ever pay in taxes, there's probably not going to be a benefit to you. Or if you're a flipper, I know you probably have people that listen to this. Unfortunately, there's not enough time for you to take your money to make more money if you're flipping. The IRS kind of stances on it is that if you hold something at least 2 years or more, tax cost segregation should be beneficial for you. You also mentioned, the dollar amount. Some people think they have to have at least $1 million building. We can go, if it's a new buy, down to like 140, 150, for there still to be tax benefit for the cost to outweigh the cost of the study. So, if people, I like to give two analogies that people kind of like. So one of them is, think of it like the lottery. Mike, you just won $1 million in the lottery. And I said, do you want a little bit of money for 39 years commercial or 27 and a half years would be residential? Or do you want it to get a whole bunch of it right now? Well, you want it right now because it's time value money, right? A dollar's worth more today than it will be, tomorrow. So we don't give people more depreciation. Just want to make that really clear. At the end of the life of your building, it's going to be the same amount. Now, this is a little quote that I like. My little 86-year-old guy, who's such a great investor, he though said at the beginning when he started this with me, he said, so let me get this straight, Jodi. If I don't do this and I die next year, I've never got to use my money. Like, yeah, that's pretty much it. So we're just top loading it, so you get to, you're your own interest-free loan. Instead of it going to the IRS, you're giving it to yourself. And most people, like, when I say that, they're like, yeah, well, I think I know what to do with my money better than what the IRS does. So, it's kind of being in charge, like you said, of you don't know what you don't know, but you want to be in charge of your life and your portfolio, to be able to say, can I take advantage of this $20,000, $200,000, $2 million, and what can I do with it? So that, when people look at, hearing people, oh, they didn't pay taxes, I can tell you probably 98% if they own a building, they're probably doing cost segregation.
Mm-hmm.
So I will bring up too, if you've owned a building more than a year, people kind of get a little confused on this too. They're like, oh, well, I've been straight lining it. What do I do? I don't want to amend. You don't have to amend when you do a cost segregation study. What we'll provide for you and your tax professional is what's called a 3115 form. And that form just clearly tells the IRS that you're switching from straight line to accelerated. So there's not amending, and because I know a lot of times people are like, whoa, I don't want to amend. So that's a nice thing. And if you just bought a building, today, you would just start out with accelerated depreciation.
So talk about the process and how it works. So you'd mentioned this before, you guys do kind of a free analysis for people. Talked about property up to, $150,000 or more. Often you can find enough benefit there to offset the cost. So if I'm interested in looking more into this, you guys provide kind of a free study. So what do I need to send to you, or how does that work to kind of get that free analysis to know if it's going to make sense or not?
Yep. So what I would probably say is if you've owned the building more than a year, I would want your depreciation schedule. And then if you've done any major improvements in 2023, that wouldn't be on the schedule yet. You'd let me know that.
Mm-hmm.
If you just purchased a building, you would send me the closing settlement statement. And then I would ask, was there a 1031 exchange involved? Or was there any major improvements you're going to be doing this year? When I get those answered, then we like the address and what's the use of the building. Typically, I'll ask also how many square feet it is, because a 50,000 square foot building can be different than a 5,000 square foot building.
Mm-hmm.
And then within 48 hours, we'll come back with the analysis. If you like the numbers, we do ask if you have appraisal and or blueprint. We are engineered based, so that's what the IRS prefers. And so when the IRS says they prefer something, typically what you want to do. We actually physically come to the location of the property. We take pictures of the whole outside and inside. If it would be a hotel or a multi-family living, we do need to get into one of each type of unit and then all of the common areas. And our studies take like 6 to 8 weeks. We do get paid half up front and then half when our study is completed. And I know people, want to know pricing a lot, like, what are we looking at? How much expensive? We don't have a set fee. It's really what the building's used at, but I'll give you kind of an example. Let's say you have a $1 million office building, and then you have a $1 million warehouse, both bought the same year, same month. So there's going to be more stuff, more assets in the office building. And so, that's probably going to give you, let's say, the $80,000 tax benefit, and the cost of the study is probably going to be somewhere between, don't quote me here. I don't set the fees, but I've been doing this a long time. Somewhere probably between $4,800 and $5,800, something like that. Now, the warehouse is not going to have as much stuff in it, so that's probably only going to give us maybe a $45,000 tax benefit. But the cost of the study, because there's not as much stuff for us to look at, is probably going to be, between the $3,800 to $4,800 type of price range. And it kind of varies a little bit too. Like I said, how big it is. If it's 120,000 square foot warehouse, it's probably going to be a little bit more. If the office building was going to be more, if it was a little less. I will bring up right now that's been really popular the last since COVID. Actually, it's really taken strides. Is the Airbnbs. A lot of people are into those right now, and those are really been very beneficial for a lot of people. Especially if you're running your own and doing a lot of the work yourself, you can actually use that towards your active income. So that can be very beneficial too.
Yeah. And then understanding, the money that you're going to pump into the study here, you're going to recoup that and much more on the back end. And so understanding, there's an investment that happens to get this study done. And yet, like you said, you would only do the study if it makes sense for you financially. And so it's like,
ROI.
it's not like I'm gonna pay you this money and then you come back and you're like, oops, sorry. You already know ballpark what is going to be the advantage here. And then, yeah, if the numbers make sense, it's like, okay, let's move forward with this study. You get this study and have it done. And like you said, ideally, it's going to be more than what you had anticipated. And then happy day, great. We have a bigger savings than what we thought. And so that is the thing. There's really not a lose scenario here because you're already going to look at the cost benefit here.
You also get to expense it. So,
Exactly.
why so there's really, like, a lot of people say, it's a no-brainer. I mean, why would you not want your money now? I mean, again, if you're looking at buying, I always think it's kind of funny though. I have some guys that, they know they're going to sell in a year and they still will do it because they feel like they can take their money and make more money in that kind of scenario. That would be something I would definitely tell you, talk to your, tax professional about. But also, let's say you cost seg it and somebody comes and offers you, 10 times what your building's worth, you would probably be like, number one, am I sitting on gold that I missed? Or number two, do I really care that I paid Jodi $5,000? I just made, 500,000 or whatever. So, and we do use a combined Fed and state tax rate to do your, to figure out what your tax, benefit's going to be. Obviously, South Dakota or, states that don't have, Florida that don't have state tax, it would be just the federal. But I mean, I probably have clients in 42 states now. And it just works for people everywhere when they start doing this, and your investors, you probably will never stop. I mean, it's just a repeat type of situation.
Like you said, kind of a no-brainer here when you start to see like, oh gosh, I can really experience this benefit here. And yeah, you see it show up and it provides more cash flow in that short term. It is kind of a no-brainer here. Real estate agents, are you tired of letting the busyness of life get in your way from achieving your real estate investing goals? I'm super excited to announce we've created the Real Freedom Investor Agent Tribe. It's a place for you to come, get educated, and network with others so that you can make sure that you're hitting your real estate investment goals. So find out more on our website, realfreedom.com. Click on the store link. We've got a membership, we've got a mastermind group, and some private coaching as well. Check it out. I've priced it super low. The goal is to get you in, not have price be a determining factor to keep you from your goals. So come check it out, schedule a call with me, and we're happy to see where your real estate journey is going to take you.
Well, and you might have some investors too that own with, maybe there's 3 of them or 5 of them or whatever. So the benefit, you just, depending on your ownership, it just gets divided out that way. How, if you're 2020, and so it's still very beneficial, because there's multi-investors. The one thing that there's also more benefit, and it's probably, I don't want to go down in the weeds, but it's all in your favor. There's called tangible property regulations. So basically, when you've done a cost segregation study, the main thing I would tell you, if you ever have anything done on your building after that, you'd want the contractor to break out what they're doing to 3 very important things, and that's tear out, disposal, and replacement. And once we get those things, you can expense a lot more different things than you would have been able before. The other thing I would tell people too is once you've done a cost segregation study with CSSI, but you might want to talk to your insurance carrier. I've had a lot of clients that have gotten lower premiums, and the reason being there's really no going back and forth about what's worth what, because it's all engineered, calculated numbers. I mean, we're not aggressive, we're not passive, it is what it is. Your windows are worth this, your roof's worth this, your flooring was worth this. God forbid a fire, that's the easiest example that people find. So, there's really a good way to get things done. You do want to have them done right. People, audit. I just had a thought here. People, is this gonna, get me audited? Is this, it's actually a little bit the opposite. We've done 40,000 studies. We've never triggered an audit. We have been involved in like 17 audits, like they were audited for say payroll, and they've seen we did their cost. They say we're in and we're out. Your audit defended, doesn't cost the client anything. It's right in our agreement. And I mean, obviously we've been around a long time and we've done a lot of these, so we do things right. And you do want that. Probably people have heard, the IRS, they're talking about getting like 83,000 or whatever more IRS agents. I don't know if they're going to be able to do that or not, but if they do, I mean, you're rest assured you're in good hands and you want to do things correctly.
Yeah, absolutely. So we kind of talked through the basics here of why would we want to do it? What's going to be the benefit? When wouldn't it make sense? Which is very rarely. What would be kind of the next steps? You had mentioned that free analysis. So if somebody is like, hey, Jodi, I want to learn more now, I want to reach out to you. And yeah, some of these concepts I can't quite wrap my brain around them. I don't understand them yet. And yet the good news is we don't have to fully understand them, but talking with you will really help. So how can they reach out to you to get more information?
Well, thanks, Mike. Yeah. And I'm about relationships. And I like to be more of a consultant for people because, I want you to understand because what you need to understand, and I try not to go down the weeds at all with anybody, but you have to have a good trust, and hopefully I bring that to people. I think I do. My phone number, and it's Jodi, Jodi Nielsen, Nielsen, and I'm at 651-210-1921. And then my email, it's long, so I'm going to say it and then spell it. It's jodi.nielsen@costsegregationservices.com. So it's JODI.NIELSEN at cost, COST, segregation, SEGREGATION, SERVICES.com, Cost Segregation Services. And then my website is www.superiorcostsegregation.com.
Awesome. Thank you, Jodi, for coming on. Thank you for sharing. And it's a topic where if I hadn't heard about it before, it's going to take a little bit of time to get my brain wrapped around it. But at the same time, you make it so easy and you help us out. And like I said, really, you're only moving forward if it makes sense. And so it's a win-win situation. And so just certainly reach out to Jodi if you want to learn more.
Love to hear from y'all.